The rotunda of the Galactic Council was never quiet. Noise was ceremonial here, purposeful, calibrated, and intentionally overwhelming. Diplomacy, they claimed, was theater. Intimidation was tradition. The chamber was an engineered gyre suspended inside a massive zero-inertia cylinder that hovered at the heart of Nexus 9, a bureaucratic moon forged from alloy, orbiting nothing, belonging to everyone, and answering only to procedure. It was 2187 CE by Terran calendars, a year insignificant to the Council but pivotal to a lone observer. Delegates entered on floating rail platforms, carried by anti-grav conveyors that rotated them into concentric tiers. Each seat corresponded not merely to a species, but to a hierarchy of assumed dominance. The innermost spokes were reserved for elder civilizations whose empires spanned star clusters. The outer tiers were for new voices, worlds recently inducted, granted speech but not gravity, permission without presence. Earth's delegation platform locked into the far-flung orbit of the outer tier. Their insignia, a cyan sphere bisected by a simple meridian line, encircled by a minimalist atomic ring, drew chuckles from the moment it clicked into place. Admiral Kieran Holt stood in ceremonial whites, his medals dark cobalt circles, smooth, non-geometric, representing collapse events survived rather than territories taken. Beside him, in uniform blacks, was Kayla. She was 19, short by Council standards, smaller by Dominion averages, but human in scale, meaningful only to a species that measured power by persistence instead of posture. She was stationed here under the Earth Naval Research Division as a junior officer in astrophysical assessment. Her orders weren't political. They were analytical. Observe, record, verify, return home. She carried no visible weapons. Only a regulation datapad, slate gray, built for classification work, not consequences. High Chancellor Rex Vort drifted to the podium at the core center, an elevated dais shaped like an inverted hourglass, rotating slower than the audience ring but faster than patience. He unfurled membrane-thin wings of iridescent data fabrics that shimmered regulations mid-air as though law itself needed holographic display to feel real. Classification day begins, Rex announced. Planetary contributions to be assessed in descending order of impact. His voice rippled in harmonic resonance, engineered to bounce off council banks and internal amplifiers alike. Most species twitched visibly when he spoke, a desired physiological subtext. Humans merely listened. The first worlds presented themselves for ranking. The Ori and hegemony preened its dominion accolades. The Signari archives filed precedent whispers into the air, self-referential as always. And then came Earth. Rex barely let their lights finish illuminating before speaking dismissal into fact. Earth. Contribution index minimal. Military assessment unreliable. Diplomatic value moderate. Classification, Class 5 dependent. Planet of negligible strategic relevance. The reaction was immediate. The Council erupted into a tapestry of overlapping alien commentary. None of it coordinated, all of it gleefully convergent in spirit. A reptilian envoy from Karnak Expanse let his scaly jowls widen in a lopsided grin. Class 5? And they walk in wearing polyester myths. Another delegate, a hulking fur-mantled ursine hybrid whose breathing alone created condensation rings around him laughed throatily. A death world calling itself civilization. Charming. A trio of avian-formed senators cocked their heads in ridged synchronization. Their species communicated collectively, almost like mocking consensus was easier when shared. Terran rankings overstated. They can barely withstand core flux radiation exposure, let alone participate in singularity monitoring. Amid the rising mockery, one stainless chitin centipede-like delegate clicked its mandibles rhythmically, the Council's equivalent of applause. Vote them into supervised oversight, it suggested rhetorically. The hubbub wasn't merely derision. It was strategic. The Council used social inundation to bury dissent, drown logic, and rewrite confidence into inertia. But beneath the roaring hush of alien superiority was one detail they didn't control. Kayla glanced at her pad. A system sync pulse was flashing, requesting proximity authentication. It was a standard auto-connect used when Council sessions access participant devices for archival recording. She tapped accept. No biometric barrier raised its suspicion. No trigger alarms. Just paperwork connectivity. On the opposite inner tier stood Prince Vark Thaldrine, whose emergence from his seat needed no introduction. He craved effect with every movement. His armor was hydraulic gold-segmented with serpentine hydraulic musculature, adaptive plating that flexed around him to mimic the coiled stance of a galactic apex predator. More throne than suit. More theater than regulation. He rose languidly, reinforcing his presence by simply occupying it. Chancellor Rex, Vark said, his voice smooth but layered with engineered subharmonics meant to convey charm, dominance, and cultural entitlement concurrently. If Earth is to be ranked Class 5, then the Council should assign them productive value. My Dominion will supervise their compliance protocols. They'll provide 10,000 labor prospects annually as contribution rebalancing. He turned slightly toward Earth's tier, allowing the lights to catch his armor in a gleaming array of dangerously curving reflections. That is tradition, he added. The Council murmured in approval, a quieter sound but far heavier in intent. The auditory equivalent of a pen signing nations into checkmate. Admiral Kieran Holt crossed his arms, a distinctly human gesture of incredulity rather than hostility. Supervisor oversight predicated on false premises is unacceptable, he said. Earth is not withholding labor prospects. It is withholding coercion. Vark's gaze sharpened, but Kayla did not look up. That bothered him more than a challenge. His species interpreted eye contact as territory. Humans interpreted it as choice. Is Earth objecting to productive rebalancing? The Chancellor asked, allowing Rex's wings to scroll new precedents behind him theatrically. We are objecting to false claims taking precedence over verified impact assessments, Holt replied. Vark smiled thinly. Then present your greatness, Admiral, or accept your irrelevance. The Council's attention swiveled back inward, expecting uproar or dramatics. They got something else entirely. Kayla stepped forward along the outer walkway. One step. Just one. No flare. Just movement. Protocol permits observers into the walk ring during Archive's broadcast, she said quietly, almost conversationally. The Council still heard her because their amplification shell heard everything. But this silence was theirs, not hers. Vark scoffed, guided by Archives, ranked by Dominion, crippled by insignificance. And yet you walk in? Bold. Kayla stopped 3 paces away, turning slightly to face him for the first time. No, she said. Calm. He blinked once, surprised by the correction. Aliens rarely corrected tone. Humans corrected definitions. They call you a Deathworld. Vark sneered again, recovering his composure. But death requires significance. You lack the mass to even inspire tragedy. Kayla paced again, reaching the podium, where 312 species watched in expectant delight. No mass? She said, lifting her datapad without theatrics. We invented inertia dampening. That's what is holding your seats levitated now. The avian senators cocked their heads again, uneasy. A centipede delegate ceased its applause clicking. The Earth-sign hybrid choked off his laugh. One center-form delegate from the Hydran Collective furrowed its composite brow structures. What exactly are you implying, Terran observer? Kayla tapped her pad once. No command executed yet. Merely archived. That mockery was processed through your Council's own grav anchor systems, she said, which our division helped calibrate in the first place. You're sitting safely because Earth math allowed it, not Dominion charm. Prince Vark's smile faded fully this time. That was only one step, Kayla added. When Earth takes a second, don't expect applause. Expect accuracy. Silence swept the chamber, not hers, but theirs. Classification Day had begun with laughter. Chapter 1 ended with delegated, are held hostage by the smallest voice, uttered with the largest receipts. Humans don't enter history through noise. They enter through verification. The echo of Earth's objection still clung to the air like static dust when the Taldrine Dominion delegation shifted posture. They had arrived expecting mythic fragility. Instead, they confronted a species maddeningly immune to dramatics, yet dangerously competent at measurement. Where Chapter 1 ended with gravity as metaphor, Chapter 2 began with documentation as weapon. Admiral Kieran Holt was escorted, not arrested. To the Fleet Tribunal Annex, a satellite chamber adjacent to the main assembly. The room was austere, carved with Dominion sigils, its atmosphere pressurized slightly higher than human preference. The air carried a copper-like tang meant to unsettle. It smelled like regulation sabotage and scorched confidence. Prince Vark Thaldreen was already waiting there, hands braced behind his back, claws puncturing the air in a posture of aristocratic impatience. Kayla was not invited. She followed anyway. No guard barred her. Rank permitted spectators until formal testimony began. She entered quietly, boots clicking only once against Dominion plating, echoing nothing. Theater again failed to manifest around her. The room provided none. Vark pivoted at her arrival, crest armor shimmering to mimic coiling threats. "You're persistent," he said. Kayla's eyes flicked to the rotating memorandum screens along the wall that scrolled war arbitration precedents from Dominion skirmishes, all self-aggrandizing, none quantified. "I'm compliant," she answered, "until data contradicts." A Dominion guard, Liskar Hatch 8, snorted beside the wall, armored tail coiled like impatience itself. "Terrans don't belong in tribunals of mass consequence. We belong anywhere falsified evidence is filed," Holt interrupted, "because someone needs to audit your war budgets." His tone wasn't rage. It was a soft carnage of bureaucratic precision. The Chancellor Proctor entered, a gaunt technocrat lich-formed species whose occupation was adjudication. His species considered neutrality sacred, though neutrality here, too, was engineered. "Tribunal will proceed," Proctor Velshik stated. "Earth classification demoted due to insufficient stellar engagement and mathematical inferiority." Vark smiled slightly, confident again. "That conclusion is archived already." "Then Earth presents counter-archives now," Holt said, producing a palm-sealed data rod. It unspooled a holographic text timeline fed directly from Earth Naval Research crosschecks. Pure data. No flourish. Every line tagged with astrophysical deployment logs. Prince Vark unfolded his claws once, visibly irked. "You dare present metrics beside Dominion precedents?" "Daring would imply fear," Holt replied. "This is quarterly auditing." Kayla didn't finally speak, though only when the Chancellor Proctor's eyes drifted toward her annotation stream. "Dominion metrics interlaced are mathematically impossible," she said softly, cross-checking her pad. "Sagittarius mass index is 190 septillion tons. Earth's latest containment study budget alone dwarfs your entire fleet expenditure multiplied by 40.78. The Proctor hesitated. This was deviation from script. Vark snarled, "Your numbers are insult, Terran." "They are insult only if inaccurate," Kayla answered. The Proctor summoned his gavel equivalent, a gravity-charged adjudication seal hammered against the floor. It triggered Dominion counter-arrays designed to degrade testimony via gravitational cognitive noise, scrambling weaker species language centers through grav-induced tension. He expected flinching. He got none. Kayla's datapad shimmered warning lines at her palms. A classified thread auto-connected in error during archival cross-sync from earlier. The file opened with a title she instantly recognized from Forbidden Common subfiles. It was a Dominion copy, labeled as Elder Archives. But Earth's Astrophysics Division recognized the signature better than court signets recognized pride. "This isn't an Elder file," Kayla said quietly, interrupting Fleet Tribunal mid-preference. Vark froze again. Guard stilled. "It's a Dominion draft," she continued. "You plan activation sequence into a live black hole, and you mislabeled collapse potential by 9 magnitudes. If fired, the containment shell will implode into a sector-wiping grav flare." Proctor Velshik jerked his form around. "Archive source. Cross-filter Dominion code includes Hydra Ring lexicons, not Elder Architecture fractals," she said. "It is falsified lineage." Holt exhaled slowly. Humans counted breaths when others counted fleets. Prince Vark thumped his claws against the podium, producing a hairline fracture. "Velshik, remove her testimony access." Kayla tapped 2 keys on her pad. The annex seal for dimensional interlace invoked, instantly drugged Dominion grav counter-arrays offline, recorded automatically. "No!" Kayla finally raised her gaze, correcting her sitting metaphor moment. Unfiltered truth is permitted anywhere artificial intimidation expects silence. Prince Vark snapped, "Your world has no apex predator forms, no mass, and no—" Kayla interrupted. "We do. It's paperwork." The Proctor screens jittered as Earth Naval Research injected original code architectures into Hall's inertial damp shells. The copper air ionized with data injection micrograv destabilization, humming once as though gravity itself complained when used for rhetoric. "You coded our insignificance wrong," Kayla said quietly. "Omega exams don't scream. They simply start." Holt asked, "And secondary array?" "Connect Sagittarius activation through Dominion rings will destroy 70% of all member worlds in the Karnak expanse, 12% of Hydran collective subtiers, and 40% of young utility species. Earth contribution rank would spike to 9,997 extermination response index points. That would be unfortunate." She stopped scrolling. Vark's voice flattened to a whisper. Earth could never stop screening arbitration noise. Kayla stepped closer to the Proctor's screen banks. "Omega's silence isn't loud," she said. "It's inevitable." The Proctor stared at running grav collapse code dissolving under her analysis, unfiltered by intimidation, shredded not by war but by mathematics. Earth had walked into tribunal, thinking they needed to debate strength. Instead, they simply proved dominance metrics had workflow errors. The quiet girl wasn't the outlier. She was the audit. Velshix hammered his gravity seal again. Unstable. Tribute and labor prospect demands archived invalid pending further review. Nexus. 9 grav anchor lineage flag for seizure. The Annex AI recorded permanently. Kayla turned toward Vark, boots clicking again once. "You're small," he said weakly, voice drained of dominant subharmonics. "No," she replied. Precise. The copper air stopped shimmering. The rail seat ceased hyperrotational hum. The guard forgot to breathe. Some species fought wars with fangs. Others, fleets. Earth conquered tribunals with spreadsheets. And the galaxy did not tremble because humans roared. It trembled because Kayla quietly scrolled a number high enough to turn mockery into forecast. No one forgets the moment a room realizes it isn't in control. The Fleet Tribunal Annex was sealed, yet the main council chamber beyond its bulkheads was already reacting. The Galactic Rumor Net, a hyper-braided communication lattice operated by Dominion clerks, spread distortions faster than truth traveled light years. It reported Earth had disrupted proceedings, but not how. Vagueness is always intentional when embarrassment is involved. Inside the annex, Kayla Dre stood a meter from the judgment podium, datapad idle, but awake. The room's gravity envelope hummed back online under emergency limiters, no longer a demonstration field, but a caged animal uncertain of its next command. Prince Vark Thaldreen wanted the next line. The galaxy wanted to hear her fail. The universe had other pacing instructions. The Chancellor Proctor Velshix cleared his throat sack for arms folded in nervous precision, wings no longer flaring law into holographic dominance, but scrolling arbitration errors instead. Confidence sat wounded somewhere else. Earth fleet restructuring motion to be reviewed, he said, struggling to sound neutral. His species bred to be impartial, not rattled. But the Dominion Prince can test procedural intrusion. Vark stepped forward, gold armor glaring one last time, as if light could posture its way past math. "I contest that humans' interference under Dominion law," he charged. "Under your law," Holt said quietly, correcting the preposition like a blade slipped into grammar. "This is council jurisdiction, not royal inconvenience." Velshix glanced at Kayla. "Observer input is optional unless foundational data is attached." "Is foundational data attached?" Kayla's finger hovered above a single seal. "Again, paperwork first." "Affirmative," she answered. "Sagittarius singularity activation draft filed under Dominion header. False lineage traced. Collapse potential miscalculated. That is foundational. The annex went still, the kind of stillness that comes when power has finally found a spine to crawl up." Vark hissed. "Those archives are Dominion property. They cannot." "The archives already property checked themselves," Kayla interrupted softly, "and flagged your ownership as invalid. Annex AI chimed again, monotone but sharp. Dominion Archive fingerprint corrupted. Terran Data Authority accepted. Override enabled. Velshix exhaled through gill channels, impressed despite discomfort. Proceed. Kayla tapped the seal. The projection erupted into view, not loud but undeniable. A black hole containment test 3 months prior at Sagittarius Perimeter Research Outpost Valerian Anchorage, featuring 8 allied species, 17 Dominion officers, and Earth's inertial grid calibration imprint in every machine signature. The ranking screen began self-rewriting. Earth Fleet Capability. Class Omega. Unrestricted Singularity Competence. The galaxy snapped to attention fully this time, because humiliation tires faster than physics. Vark Bart. Class Omega doesn't exist. That classification is reserved for Mythic Elder. Holt interjected. We didn't ask for reservation. We earned the math. Velshix thumped his gravity seal. Quieter, though the hall now respected its weight. Earth Fleet classification to be reviewed under high-consequence impact metrics. Dominion tribute motion suspended. Kayla scrolled her pad again while the galaxy stared at the projection behind her, their postures evaporating faster than Pride Defense's lost armor. 8.12 billion tons of Singularity Razor weapon intent, mislabeled as Dominion archives. The gavel may have given Earth permission to speak, but the data gave them significance. One of the serpentine-beaked avian senators from the inner ring fluttered down from his gravity-locked chair, feathers ruffled by sudden humility. Terran observer, he said cautiously, do your species seek dominion? Kayla shook her head once. Just head motion. No repetition. We research collapse events, she said, not societal ones. Those happen without study. A chitin-formed delegate from the war robotics sector clicked uneasily from the outer ring, legs jittering involuntarily from grav buffer feedback. Humans overcoming archives traces is illogical. Your biology is average, Kayla replied. Our error correction is not. Another Centaur Leone delegate from Hydran Tactical Analysis muttered, impressed but uncertain. Dominion Archives forged Elder classification to hide Singularity Activation Project. Yes, Kayla said. Unexpected but recorded. The galaxy stared at her. The project glared at them. The difference felt physical now. Vark attempted another angle. If Earth takes Dominion tech, the Council destabilizes. Kayla walked one more step forward. Second steps matter now. No, Prince. If Dominion takes Singularity tech, the galaxy ends. That destabilizes much more. The chamber's fusion cores rattle under resizing impact metrics. The rail conveyors that floated delegates into superiority now floated them into silence instead. Admiral Holt asked, glancing at Kayla like one would glance at the math that just solved an argument. Options if Dominion project seized? Kayla turned the projection toward the Council, showing warfare deception logs etched by sapphire-cooled bureaucrats. Dominion genetic modifications trial on subservient species, collapsed budgets hidden under royal clearance, and humanity's corrective grav grid signature embedded in every base machine architecture. Containment protocols maintained, she said. Project must be taken offline safely. Lineage invalidation broadcast pending. Earth fleet relevance rewritten sector-wide. That is the only way forward unless cosmic regret is desired as epilogue. She did not scroll further. The file scrolled itself anyway. Annex AI concluded with a final arbitration line. Singularity Activation Project transferred to Earth Defense Authority. No tribute. No supervision. Classification upgraded. The galaxy didn't sprinkle with 312 species intellectually grounded by one datapad seal, humbled by a quiet 19-year-old who spoke not with tremors, but arithmetic corrections. It had begun with mockery. It derailed through falsified archives. It ended with classification self-rewriting into new existential relevance. The dominion of paper wars concluded not in roar, but recoded consequence. Prince Vark turned toward Kayla fully, armor dull now, voice stripped unum from subharmonics. Finally seeing what the galaxy had overlooked. You could have warned us. Kayla powered down her pad and clipped it to her belt, boots clicking just once as she turned away. Warnings are for species who think consequences are negotiable. She paused, correcting the last word like a footnote. We assumed to counsel them that read archives before laughing. That was our only classification error. No one mocked Earth again. Not after gravity sat audited. The transfer order from a seizure never reached Vark's dominion first. It hit the wider galaxy seconds earlier through Council broadcast strata, cascading into Imperial couriers, commerce nets, and military registries alike. No polish and delivery, only propagation. And for the first time in 143 years of Earth's membership, the comm flow carried a prefix species once mocked. Terran authority confirmed. The main council chamber was rotating again, though slower. Movement without spectacle now felt accusatory. Nations accustomed to omnidirectional superiority mimed patience poorly. Kayla Dre wasn't summoned by the Chancellor Proctor. She was requested by the adjudication machine itself. The difference was subtle in phrasing, seismic in meaning. When machines adopt titles, histories change hands without ceremony. A lift column engaged in a sheath of indigo gravlite and carry her upward to the central dais of the Galactic Council Hall. Its surface was simulated elder marble, a composite polymer crafted to look like ancient stone. Humans recognized imitation craftsmanship instantly. It did not awe her. Fleet Captain Juno Everett, 27, head of Earth's Singularity Guard delegation, was standing already at the boundary railing. She offered Kayla a faint nod, human for watch what happens now. They're requesting your clearance, Juno murmured. They're requesting calibration authority. Kayla whispered back. Clearance is a human inconvenience. Control is physics alignment. Her boots finally disengaged from maglock as contained center gravity class around them like punctuation, sealing species consensus into inertial compliance. The hall spectators stilled. Prince Vark, Thaldreen, was not standing. He remained down-tier, claws taut, soul of entitlement perspiring through scale skin. Gravity equalizers expose hierarchy more efficiently than protest ever could. High Chancellor Rex Vort materialized again at the podium core, wings lowered, data fabrics trailing behind him in wounded gauntlets. He tried to thunder authority and failed. Cosmic embarrassment flattened vocal acoustics into brittle neutrality. Terran observer Kayla Dre, he announced. The Council demands reason. Why did your species invert grav envelopes during Dominion proceedings instead of issuing formal contests earlier? Kayla did not clear her voice. The hall was built to hear her anyway. Formal contest was issued, she said, during Chapter 1. You archived the wrong one for precedence. The hall flickered faint laugh ripples. Quiet now, avoidant. Elder species cringe better than young bullies ever did. Rex's gill eyes tightened. Then explain your invasive authority to disengage Dominion homage and see Singularity Activation Project under a correction draft index. You should not hold clearance to view at your age tier. That index exists because young species get weaponized as tokens, she said. Documentation tracks intent, not age. Inner tier screens scroll behind her, now truncating Dominion archive routes, rewriting species metrics into honest strata. The projections change sheen, not awe-dread alignment. Dominion oversight shell activation mislabels cosmic infrastructure. Kayla continued. If uncorrected, the galaxy gets decommissioned by irony, not warfare. My age doesn't matter. The math does. A murmur from the inner ring. Not insult, not approval, vigilant worry. A tall aquiline delegate from the Asterian Pact descended from his floating seat and approached the dais, wings half-folded, a posture of diplomatic humility rare in execution. You imply grav anchor origins originate in human calibration grids? He asked. Our containment imprint is in every bank, Kayla said calmly, because we built Omega oversight shells as precaution, not prestige. You exploited the optics instead of the equations. A centipede-like robotic minister from the outer tier buzz-clicked. Your species cannot hold core flux reputational authority. Cultural intimidation has always governed seating hierarchy. Kayla angled her pad once. The gravity equalizers disengaged outer tier chairs fully and collapsed them flat softly, as if gravity sighed with correction. Cultural intimidation is only effective when it governs the weaker, she said. You never tested containment math against something unafraid of optics. The hall watch chairs hit the floor like insect shells with cracked dominance drought. The galaxy no longer needed rhetoric. The environment provided verdict. Prince Vark finally rose. Claws braced against railing. Voice 1 octave too brittle for Dominion preface. Earth's overreach violates convergent statutes on population tribute demand, he barked. Kayla turned her gaze downward toward him, but not with cruelty. Only cold classification. Population tribute statutes don't apply to projects that collapse sectors, she said. You filed elder origins fraudulently. We reversed the architecture. Overreaching would imply we missed magnitude correction. We didn't. Rex blinked. A cobalt glimmer flowed to Kayla's pad, hovering compliance cursor shimmering a single auto-query from Annex AI. Kayla tapped accept instantly. The command executed not in Annex, but in the main hall fusion cores. The behemoth chamber quaked as deep cores of Nexus. 9 hardware aligned themselves under Terran threat containment routines. The hall's hollow anchors flickered. Every species felt it in marrow or metal, because for the first time, the galaxy listened not to authority, but origin. You don't want voting rights or homage, a serpent-eyed envoy whispered from the press tier. You want physics control? Kayla shook her head. I want it safely unfired. And words at last arrived. Quiet, sincere, unexpectedly alien, yet weighted with something heavier than mockery. It emanated from countless species concurrently, uncoordinated but convergent in sincerity. Not applause, not laughter, not condemnation. All forged at last not by scale, but by contrast. The galaxy trembled to learn, not domineer. Kayla stepped to the center ring podium fully now. The dais grav anchor resolved whale power oscillation anomalies, aligning masses into stable orbits without fixating on optics. The corridor rails glowed cosmic indigo rings, braiding human fleets into watchful validity. She spoke. No intimidation, just inevitability. Singularity projects must be paired with containment budgets scaled 190 to 1 by labor replication score. Collapsing sectors doesn't count as ranking metric. Preventing collapse does. Hope finally smiled. Juno finally Saturday for the first time. Earth was not small, because no one sizes the species that calibrated omega histories. Gravity no longer mocked. Machines no longer deferred. The galaxy stopped laughing and started measuring. And somewhere, deep in Karnak expands communication banks. The galaxy whispered a sentence no Dominion air could ever bridge again.